All right, we are recording and continuing in the Omnibus, more specifically in the Saints and Sinners short stories, although this is the longest of the short stories, which is somewhat appropriate, because it's by Callum Edmonds, better known online as Mauler, or Longman, because he produces very long videos. Interior artist was Will Conrad, and colorist is Bruno Hang, or Hang, I guess. Not sure which. Adam Vanosis, there we go, is respected and feared in the world of bioengineering and technology. He built Vanosis Industries, a world leader in construction, mutation, and medicine, from the ground up. Adam has a reputation for achieving the impossible through his unrelenting ambitions. His newest and perhaps greatest discovery is an ancient tomb buried deep underground. He invites his sons, Wyndham and William, along with his ex-wife Sarah, to celebrate his glorious achievement. Buying the best in the business, Adam enlists the abilities of Mr. Maps, an expert guide. He also brings in Castor Graves, a master explorer with an impressive history of investigating innumerable dark corners of the world. Things are, however, not as they seem. As the team delves deeper into the secrets of this temple, more confusion and conflict rise to the surface. This long-lost tomb is more than just a mystery, more than a treasure waiting to be uncovered. There's great power within these walls, something that could change the world forever. The letter is also... So that is the longest introduction of any of these stories thus far. The letter, I don't think it's actually longest. It's possible that the Saskas had a longer one. But I mean, it's still a good length. And let me be clear, it's like, if somebody else had a longer one, like if it was the Saskas, that may have also been like for something longer. I don't remember. I mean, certainly the one prefacing all Saints and Sinners, that was longer, but that was also covering a lot more. Anyway. Basically, the letter goes through why he took up the offer took up the opportunity when it was offered to him, and what his goals were for this. So something that points out that is, it's not ironic really, but it may appear that way. I don't think that's quite appropriate to say, though, that's ironic. That even though so much of his life concerns fiction, it's like the thing he's best known for, well, the two things he'd be best known for are EFAP, where he with a bunch of other people goes through movies and television, I believe, and just like they stop and discuss everything to a crazy amount. Like they will spend. I've not actually watched one of these, to be honest. I'm only aware of them, but they will spend EFAP for every frame of pause, because they will stop and just talk, and it'll take like multiple 6-hour videos to get through a single movie kind of thing. But they also go, yeah, that's right. They will also go through just like YouTube videos as well. But also he makes his own edited content that like there's one that I've been meaning to watch at some point, but it's hard to sit down for like 17 hours because that's how long that video is. And it's like, there's a reason he's called the Long Man. But he's also done like video essays breaking down, I know he's done the sequel trilogy of Star Wars movies, breaking those down. So yeah, fiction is very important to him, but he's never actually written any, at least to completion. Because it does mention here that I've toyed with notes, outlines, and some pages here and there, of which never quite make it to anything complete. And I don't want to call this ironic. I really don't. Because I recognize, as somebody who, yes, I have written stories. I also have a lot more notes than I have stories. Then I have written stories. Like, I've got notes for so many stories. I could probably sit down, like, quit my job, just focus on writing, and still be, like, writing for a few years, just going on what I already have noted out. And it is depending on your writing style. Yeah, this is totally believable. I mean, it's that he could have all these ideas, but sometimes it takes having the energy to it, is how I've put it before, where it's like, you need to feel that energy from the story and then say, okay, I can sit down and write this now. And sometimes it is just a matter of time that you just have to wait, and then it's there. And even he does have something in here. I've always been so busy, and I saw it as something that would arrive when ready. It's like, sometimes that is exactly it. Like, for Failure. Second novel I self-published. Because at that point I was 2-3 years chronically unemployed. And I really wanted, and I'd already written one book. Excuse me. I really wanted to write another with the main character being somebody who was also chronically unemployed. Not completely a self-insert, but I can't say it's not that. But more so just, I am an intelligent man. I'm well-educated and all that. And it's one of those things, and it's like, I also have a degree in STEM. How is it that I don't have a job? Kind of thing. So, I wanted to have a character where, basically showing that this is somebody who's very competent, just for whatever reason, no one wants to hire him. He's not allowed these opportunities. But I still remember some of the ideas I was having. It's like something that would make sense that he would be the one that would have to solve whatever the problem is in the story. But nothing was working. It's like, and every idea I had, it's like, nah. I mean, it's like, I'd remember it, but it's like, nah. It's too contrived. It doesn't work that way. One thing, though, I knew is I didn't want to make it a superhero fantasy story because the first book was. It's like, nah, I want to do something different. But then, as I'm thinking on what I can do with this story, what I can do for what ultimately became Failure, what I can do for that, I remembered an old idea that I had. Like, okay, not necessarily that high, but let's say that high. Of wouldn't it be interesting if you could, say, lay your hand on one of the Great Pyramids, and two versions of this. Either summon back every particle that's eroded off of them, or been taken off of them, over the millennia, or just lay your hand on them and restore them to their original glory and beauty. That idea just came back into my mind. And I'd had it for years. It just spawned back in while I was thinking about what I was trying to do, what I wanted to do as far as this chronically employed person, and they immediately merged together and became inseparable in my mind. And I realized, no, this is going to be a superhero story because that's his power. That's his power, that he can do that. It's actually more involved in that. It's more he has a mastery of destruction. So he can undo destruction. That's what I just described concerning the Great Pyramid there. But also, he can, at a touch, destroy anything. I mean, he can do one of two ways. He can either cause it to erode away, in the case of those stones, or he can just cause it to blink out of existence. Technically, there's also a corollary that anything that he's in physical contact with, he learns about. He gains information from it. I refer to those as whispers in the story. But, yeah, it's like, because once those merged, and I recognized all those powers, it's like, I got who this is now. I know this character now. I know not necessarily the specific story, but still is like, I got this. And quickly then, it flowed out. So yes, sometimes it is it'll arrive when it's ready, as he puts here. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is how it works. And it was I got it, sat down, started writing. Actually, it might have been a little bit before I started writing, because I wanted to think through, okay, what else do I want to do in there? But it is also just to put a little bit more there. It is kind of interesting. It really comes more so to a head in the sequel, which does also, it's in Children of Gifts, Failure sequel, that he actually does visit the pyramids. But also, what we see more so in that is the fruition of the idea of somebody who, he's chronically unemployed, he's being rejected by the world constantly, but is also, anything he's in contact with, he can just blink out of existence. He can literally destroy anything that exists. What are the consequences of that as well? Those are more so explored in the second book. First one is how he becomes a superhero, essentially. He's always had his powers, but how does he start deciding to actually start using them that way? Anyhow. But yeah, so I wanted to defend that, hey, there's nothing wrong with him loving fiction, studying fiction, analyzing, critiquing fiction, doing all that, but never writing any of his own. Even if he not even done this, there's nothing wrong with that. Because, I mean, it's like your passion is still there, even if you're not creative. There's plenty of creativity in what he does. It's just Anyway, so then he explained that his goal with this was to come up with something that would be foundational, isolated, and archetypal. And what he means by that is, as far as it being archetypal, because he actually goes through each of those three, something that would generate intrigue, suspense, adventure, and hopefully excitement. Isolated so that he could just do this and have it not send ripples out to the Rippaverse. And foundational in that it is something he can build on. So that if people do like it, can do more with it. Yeah, a wish granted, a price of bone. The very first panel here just says Bone God in bone and viscera, it seems. But yeah, wish granted, a price of bone. And then we see they basically smashed open somehow the entrance to the temple. And some dude, he's just saying that he's got hat on, turns towards the rest of the group. Parted are the barriers of the mortal coil. We enter united, humble before his temple, his wisdom, his peace. There's no better suited team of people I would rather discover the secret of immortality with. Let us now live together forever. And yeah, then Ha says Sarah. Sarah's easy to identify here, and I'm going to get to that because she's a woman. No one else is here. How, kind sir, I'm absolutely excited. Okay, and that's one dude in the back with that. Let's make history, father. But then we got the insert here. Main scene there, but then insert here for that guy talking. Alright, boys. First stretch was easy. Let's hope that that's the worst of it going forward. Stay sharp. So all I know is that Sarah, but let's make history, father. Okay, so now I know that's one of the sons. Don't know if it's William or Wyndham, but that's it. And the fact that it's let's make history, fathers, and then this dude saying, all right, boys, it would seem then that one is Adam. That's the father here. It took so long before finally people started to be identified. In fact, one of them, Sarah at one point says, stop it, Stephen, it's embarrassing. Mom, only treasure shuts her up, Willie. So it's okay, now getting a little bit more of who's Wyndham and who's William. But we eventually get the explanation, because why is she calling you Stephen? Says this guy who was down in the corner who said, all right, boys. And then the guy who's been going off about immortality says Mr. Graves. It's okay, so that guy's Mr. Graves. I wasn't sure. All right, boys. I'm thinking, okay, he's the dad. And there's more of that. But then Sarah explains that he tried to change both our names because the only thing dwarfing his vanity are his delusions. So that, okay, Adam's original name is Stephen. So now I actually know, so many pages in, who the heck is talking. It's very annoying. And that is annoying enough, confusing enough, that actually does knock it down for me. So, yeah, giving you the benefit of this, but it is literally pages. It's I don't know who's talking. Because I was okay, we got a guy here who's just going off about finding the secret of immortality. Okay. That could be the dude who's running the show, who's paying for it, Adam. But it's also, how was he introduced? Remember, in the introduction here. Is respected and feared in the world of bioengineering and technology. The dude is an old coot looking here, who's obsessed with immortality. This doesn't seem like somebody who has achieved anything. I mean, so he could just be wealthy because his parents were wealthy, kind of thing. So there's no indication here of how he would have gained his wealth. Nothing. And it's also, he is obviously older than basically everyone else there. So could be almost like a spring-fall kind of relationship with Sarah, because she doesn't seem to be that old. She does look old enough for the sons here, who, they could be in their mid-20s, which she looks old enough, that's reasonable. This dude looks like he could be in his 60s, though. Or 70s even. Which would support the whole, that's why it's for immortality, because he knows death is coming, he wants to find immortality. Classic story there, very cliche, but, it's true. But it could also be Mr. Maps, who we don't know too much about. But it could be this guy who's just obsessed with exploration and obsessed with myths, obsessed with legends, including one that's hey, you can find eternal life, you can find immortality. It's could just be obsessed with that because it's a myth, it's a legend, and that's his thing. This could, yeah, it could as easily be that. Could technically also be Castor Graves. It's like there's really nothing to indicate who he is until much later, and I'm sorry, that's very annoying. They enter into the temple, and a couple things I want to point out. Might not make it into the review, but want to point out. There's like iron grating on the floor, so the ability for things to drain. But also the walls have these things placed on them that have blue lights in them, which is like, this is supposed to be an ancient temple. Why does it have interior lighting? Like, because this isn't like light. No, it's blue light. It literally looks like there's just someone put blue LEDs on the wall, and they're working. I'm being cautious at this point, but nope. Adam's like charging forward. There's a bunch of languages written on the wall, and Graves is looking at one of them, and he notices that there's basically a pattern here. Something set up so that we could just change it and open up the wall. A lock mechanism. But Adam and the two sons are more. Now let's just grab the C4. Yeah, because the sons are like, we know what we're doing. And so just going to use C4 to blow open the wall. It's like, it'll be fine. We know how much C4 to use, and it's we know the integrity of this. It's like, it's an ancient tomb. You don't know shit. I'm sorry, you don't know how thick this wall is. You don't know what the stone is necessarily. You don't know the quality of the stone. It's like, there's no way. And also explosions. They go in all directions. You're not just blowing the hole that way. You're also sending out that way that can shake and do a lot of damage. It's really stupid. To be fair, though, that's intentional. It's to stress that these are idiots, not Graves. The family, they're idiots and they're greedy. They think that there's treasure. They just want to push through to it. They don't care about anything else. Even though Adam goes off about, where is it? Yeah, these are ritualistic carvings. Respect to the temple and the functions are still intact. So he will talk about it's like respect for this, but it's like you're gonna blow it up. Yeah, I guess technically here it does also indicate for a man who wants to live. This is Graves talking. For a man who wants to live forever, you're not as careful as I'd imagine, Mr. Vanas. However you pronounce Adam. Well, actually, no, I don't know if it's Adam. Sure, let's try the C4. Because potentially, there's three of them. Adam, the father, and then the two sons. They would all be Mr. That last name. And he is turned and like responding to one of the sons who's being a jerk. So it still is. All we necessarily know for certain is that's not one of the sons or the father, but then nothing ventured Mr. Graves, but it still is. I mean, I guess hard luck, Mr. Yeah, so I guess process of elimination. At this point, we know that guy is Mr. Graves, but it's still, which one's Adam? All that we don't know. It's unclear, and it is frustrating to me because, as also know, I'm going to repeat myself with what I point out with the introduction. Adam is indicated to be a very intelligent, powerful person and self-made man. But the dude obsessing over immortality seems like an idiot. I'm sorry. So it's very inconsistent. And you get more. The introduction is telling us about his background. Nothing about what we're seeing here gives us that, aside from he's wealthy. The ex-wife wants half of everything. Was expecting to get half of whatever he finds here. And Adam is old, so he wants to live forever. I mean, it's like, okay. That's it. Not this whole biotechnology stuff. It's like No, there's nothing explaining that. There's nothing supporting that, what I'm seeing here. It's only in the introduction, which leads to it being confusing. All right, so they blow open the wall, and things don't collapse on them, so that's good. But when looking in there, Graves sees, and it's like drawn onto his eye, a figure that actually that is actually like going away. So he's like, dude, what the hell? What? And it's like, what the hell is that? But no one seems to have seen it. As they continue, Graves is also like, look, we really need to be careful here. Like, I mean, you're talking about respect. You just blew up, open the wall using C4. And they all start just making fun of him for it because he's basically saying we should be cautious, and they're like, nah, let's just go on. As though it's like, he's the master explorer, but no, we know what's going on. We know what's going on. Later, he sees the figure again, draws his gun to light it up and potentially shoot at it. Does actually shoot when... I think it's Wyndham? Yes, Wyndham. Because they actually start yelling at each other. But he sees the figure there and fires. No one saw it, though. Wyndham is fine. He didn't hit Wyndham, but it's... There's no blood. There's nothing. Where's the body? That thing had claws. They continue deeper, but it is basically either Graves is on thin ice at this point, like has just been told that. It was basically, look, you're fired. I mean, it's, you can still come with us, but we have no faith in you now. Yeah, I'm far from impressed by your conduct and skills, Mr. Graves. I see the reputation of a man such as yourself is far too good to be true. Immortality would indeed be terrifying to the weak, and I will not tolerate weakness. The dude's only been an idiot up to this point. I don't care what his opinion is. They eventually find the sanctuary in it, so the centermost room, and there's writing on the walls, so Adam starts reading that. And yeah, Mr. Graves, you're relieved. Your embarrassments are no longer welcome. So it's basically, hey, we found I found what I wanted, don't need you anymore. And Graves is like, I'm good with that. Grabs Mr. Maps, who has been talking but has been largely silent and passive in this. He grabs in and just is dragging him out too, because it's basically, look, I figured this out. This is not this is not a tomb. This is a prison. I'm not staying here. You're the only one who would know how to navigate better than me. You're coming along. It's like, I'm getting out of here. You're going to improve my chances, so you're coming too. You don't have a choice in that. Which I'm good with that. So they leave. So the family is still there, although so are some other people. Like they also have, like the native workers kind of deal, where they are also present and coming in and going to be digging. Because it's like we got Adam, Sarah, William, Wyndham, and then we got 3 more guys that are just there, and they start chipping away at a wall. But while doing that, Adam is reading the wall. These markings, they look like the Ceslo e Octam. Wyndham, what do you make of this? It looks kind of familiar. The Evergard auction, those tattered scrolls, do you remember? So it's basically he's piecing together things there, because he does have some familiarity with it as his son, but basically everyone's just focused on opening up the wall. But as he continues reading, he eventually is realizing, no, this is bad. But no one's listening to him. And even if he would have yelled at them to stop, they probably wouldn't. Which is unfortunate, but, it is what it is. When they finally do smash open the wall, though, the room goes black. So all their lights are out, stuff like that. And the next panel oh God, what's that? I can't see anything, Dad. Dad, what's happening? Father, is this right? Is this... For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. I'm assuming that last one is is Adam talking about, like reading the last bit of the inscription, well, remembering, just stating what it is. And he had also read on their bone god. The next page we get is the mutilation of all the people there, except for Adam. He's at the bottom, but it's like, we've got all of them up here, including Sarah here, who seemingly had drawn a gun from somewhere. Not sure if it was ever suggested she had one. Certainly not on the right hip in that image. Looking to see if there's another. The only one that we know had a gun. No, there's no. Well, no, I don't think so. The only one we know had a gun was Graves. Do we? No, there's no indication she has a gun, but now she suddenly just does, whatever. But it shows actually she is shooting herself in the head. So presumably she is feeling what's going on and is doing that to just end it instantly instead of waiting for the process to finish. As flesh and bone are torn off of people and are either being fed into or are forming the bone god that, to me, it looks like a book, but in another shot, in another panel, it actually looks like it might be a cube with an eye at the center, and it's composed of bone and flesh. It says some stuff. That this is a far more artistic depiction, but that's it up at the top. But it is saying stuff in a language we don't know, while reaching out to Adam, who's just frozen there. And it's got mainly like 3 arms that are all like composed of bones, but there's like blood dripping from them and maybe a little bit of flesh. But in any case, one of them, it looks like is touching the center of his forehead, possibly piercing it. It's hard to tell. Because there is blood coming down, but there's blood all over him, so it could be coincidence. That blood could be coincidental, or it could be, no, it's actually like digging into his skull. So, yeah. And it just, like, his face... Oh, I hadn't noticed... Oh, actually, I should add that to the note, then. The eye in the bone god is kind of a cat's eye, where it's a slit for the pupil instead of a circle. Here, let me try to hold it up. Maybe you'll be able to see. You'll also be able to see the... Like, how it's pushing into his skull there. And there is blood, but maybe that's... Well, no. Now I'm thinking it's much more likely it is actually pushing in. But his right eye here is the same eye as what was in the thing. His left eye has not changed. The bone god only has one eye, though, so it could be... that could be why. It's only one change, and maybe only one will change. But, yeah. That's where it ends. So, yeah, I do want to just... add that to my notes. Adam's right eye is given a slit pupil like what the bone god has. So yeah, I give this a weak recommendation because I am finding it interesting, and I am interested. I'm curious in what more is going to happen here. I did find it somewhat entertaining, but I have to drop it down a peg. It can't be a straight recommendation because it is. Who are these people? I don't know who they are until like halfway through, and it is important because if the dude talking about immortality is Mr. Maps, and it's like, okay, he's just a kook who he just loves myths and legends. That's why he's a map guy. Okay, cool. I can work with it. I understand that. That's how I can connect with this guy. Okay, tell me about the next one. But if it's Adam, then okay, he's older. He's rich based on what was said before, and also just generally talking about as well. So it's like he's trying to buy immortality. That's a completely different motivation than just a, hey, I love myths and legends. So completely different that, yeah, I do need to know who it is early on. Because you're telling me so much about him by him talking about how we're going to find immortality here. I need the proper introductions there, because otherwise I'm lost on who this guy is. He cares about immortality, but what is feeding that? Because wanting to live forever because you're approaching death versus you just love this stuff, very different. Love of the game, very different concept. Okay. But no, I still found it interesting, and I do hope that they are able to continue with it. I mean, it's one other thing that is a bit of an issue with it. Depending. Mainly depending on what may develop from this, if anything, is it's very much a prologue. It very much reads like a prologue. Because potentially this could pick up months, even years later, where it's like, Graves having returned to the world along with Maps, have decided, we're not returning, or maybe they do return but find nothing. And so maybe his reputation has been destroyed, and it's like he's now turned to alcoholic. I know, cliche stuff, but still, you could see that being what's happening there, or could be picking up, weeks later, where it's like, hey, I've now got a group of people here that will go back there and investigate properly, because no one has returned, and then like have Adam just reappear and say he's got an eye patch on or something to hide that eye, because a bone god is now inhabiting him, because that's a way for it to escape its prison in the temple. It's like, there are definitely things you can do there that can be very interesting. But, yeah, so I am curious in what comes next. But it's a prologue in that the next page could be the next minute. It could be the next year. The events here are really setting things up. It's also funny that in theory, Adam might cease to be at this point. As far as the Bone God has been released, that technically might be it, and then it's Graves who's actually going to be the main character going forward. I mean, it's just this is part of what I mean by it being prologue. Maybe Adam is still alive in some capacity, but is corrupted. Don't know. Let me just look back quickly. I technically shouldn't do this, but I'm curious. Okay, so this gets a weak recommendation, as does Cross to Bear. And no, they can both be there. It doesn't need to be different. But my inclination is I like this better than Across to Bear. I do feel more potential here, because if nothing else, this feels more directed already than Across to Bear. Where Across to Bear is still so much going to happen. And that focus, can the focus that this has can drive me to be a bit more interested. But no, they're both still weak recommendations, I think. Yeah. All right. And I will also mention that while the others are 15 pages long, this one is 16 pages. Could you have cut it down? No, not really. I mean, every page was pretty full. I mean, you might have been able to combine the last 2 pages, but if you did that, you would lose some of the impact of what's going on there, because you're not able to focus on the horror of the events, but by having them broken up more. So yeah, no, it makes sense that it's 1 page longer than the others. Besides it being a joke, because that is one thing. If you were to see any of the videos where they do talk about Saints and Sinners and about how Mauler's is the longest, like Az tells the story about how when he first learned that Mauler was also offered this, he was like, "Oh, he's gonna get 1 more page, isn't he?" And they were like, "No, that's not what that. Everybody gets the same number of pages." But then later on, when they were all working with, it was the Saska sisters that were leading this, so they were the editors for it and helping. Like, as also talks about the whole, like, they really helped with him cutting things out to focus it, to drive it down, want it to be just the 15 pages. I do think some stuff should have just still been present, but that's me. You can watch that video or wait until I got the review written up and put that up. Anyway, but they then got to the whole, no, with Mauler's, we don't know how to cut down more. No, it had to be 16 pages fit all. And it's like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, I've got criticisms for it. Don't get me wrong. But the corrections you would make to satisfy my criticisms would not have to at all impact the length of the story. In fact, basically all the panels would probably be the same. It would just be you changing the text to make it clear who the hell anyone is. All right. So yeah, it being 16 pages, basically, that does make sense. That does make sense. All right. Next up is the Underdog. Where did I get that R in there? Underdog by the Soska sisters. And then the last one, I'm just flipping to it to be certain. Yeah, it is One Little Push by Will Jordan, who is Critical Drinker. That is, yeah, that's the last of the Saints and Sinners short stories, and then we get back to the longer form. At least I think that both Horsemen are longer. Oh, wait, no, because one of them is also Rippaverse. Well, we get back to the main Rippaverse content, I guess is a way to put it. All right, see you then.